So I now want to introduce my friend, Alain Martaud. And again, like most of your speakers and like many collectors, he got into minerals as a kid and he never stopped. In addition to his mineral collecting, he's deep into mines and caves as a spelunker. And he built, over the course of decades, one of the better collections of French fluorites for himself that he has since sold off. He collects with his wife and partner, Caroline, who's with us tonight as well. And I'd like to introduce Alain.
So, a few words about me. For those who don't know me, I'm a geologist. For example, I've made 2 geological maps in central Portugal in the late 80s. And I'm also a long-time caver and was very interested of taking pictures in the 90s. That's why I stopped during 10 years mineral collectings. Now, since 1999, I'm a fine mineral dealer, try to be. As you can see, examples of cumengeite and a big aegirine now in the museum MIM in Beirut. And I'm also now doing a lot of expertises of mineral heritage in France. And since 6 years, the direction of the show of Sainte-Marie-aux-Mines gives me the responsibility to drive the special exhibition. So this is, we have made already 6. Example on the left is the Alpes exhibition in 2015 with some red fluorites that we will see later. And on the right, another very different exhibition, Origin, Wine and Stones. We will compare the colors of the wines and the stones, the minerals, of course, and the gems. And also in terms of territory, like Chessy Mine, which is just above some vineyards of Beaujolais. Next theme for 2019 is lead minerals. And with the help of my loving wife, Caroline, she's also a mineral collector, specialized in wulfenite. And the organizer of the Lyon Mineral Show. On the left, you can see Caroline during our wedding trip. France have a great heritage, cultural heritage, like castle, monuments, natural monuments also, church, and of course the wines, and the gastronomy and the cheese, more than 400 cheese. But we have also another kind of heritage, which are fluorites. Few information on those to show the diversity. On the left, upper left, this is green from Foncentre, from the fig tree vein, center Piboul, a very small locality in Lozère, in center of France. On the right, the famous Burg. On the lower, Mont-Blanc, classic octahedron red. Colorless from Langeac, we will see later more about Langeac. And some purple balls from Foncentre, very prolific locality. Let's see the geological map of France. So there is a pointer, okay. So France is more or less 550,000 square kilometers. That means Illinois, Missouri, Kentucky, Indiana, more or less. Few words, you have 2 great sedimentary basins, very, very quiet, Paris and Aquitaine, Bordeaux. 3 important massive with very old rocks from the Precambrian area, and this is related to the Variscan chain mountains in the late primary era. So this is Armorique or Brittany, Central Massif, which is very important, we will see later, and the Vosges, close to the borderline of Germany, with Sainte-Marie-aux-Mines right here. And then we have Jura and the Alps mountain, the Pyrenees mountain, and then here a little other ancient rocks massive, which is Esterel, and very important in terms of fluorite deposit. Few piece of history. We know at least two prehistorical artifacts made of fluorite from the Neolithic, so that means maybe 10,000 years old. And during the Middle Age to the 19th century mines, which was very, very important period in France. Of course, they found some fluorite crystals time to time in the Vosges, and they were called flowers of rocks. And Lavoisier, the father of modern chemistry, described some interesting specimens from Sainte-Marie-aux-Mines and Giromagny in the Vosges in 1770 in a book. We will see the specimen, and Héloïse Gaillou in his talk, I think, will explain more about this. The first mine appeared in 1861 in Voltaine, in Morvan, for flux for iron, and also to make some pillars of the Paris Opéra Garnier, and they are still visible today if you visit Paris. In 1920, Alexis Chermet, a young geologist, began prospecting in France to find some veins of ore, and also to find some crystals, because he was a crazy collector. In the 70s, fluorite was a popular mineral in France, mostly because of the work of Alexis Chermet and all his friends around him. He has a big team near Lyon. In 2006, the last mine closed at Le Burg, the famous Le Burg that most of you have heard the name at least. And in 2014, we have a possible reopening at Antully-Morvan. This is sedimentary deposit, but don't dream, we are in France, so I think the history of mine is dead forever. This is the sample of the School of Mine, Mine Paritech Museum from Giromagny-Belfort, and you can see the date 1770 on the back of the specimen. Few words about mines production. The total production between 1861 and 2006 for 80 main mines produced more than 15 million metric tons of high-grade fluorite ore. The best year was 1975 with 400,000 tons, and France reached the third rank worldwide. And the main mines are Escarot in Pyrenees, that you never heard because there is absolutely no crystals, but with 2 million tons. And Montroc, Moulinal, 2 million tons, and Le Burg, 1.2, Fonsante and Langeac with 1 million tons also. We have some reserves of ore in the Alps next to my house. In the Rocheret, we have 1 million tons. We will see some pictures. And all these sedimentary deposits around Morvan with maybe more than 5 million tons, and some rare earths added to the fluorite ore. And with my friend Dominique Thauvin, we are making an inventory, and we are now over 850 different fluorite localities in France, and it grows, the list grows. Picture of Escarot quarry at the foot of the Pyrenees mountain. For the little story, it was an iron mine, open pit, working on middle-age galleries for iron also. And a young geologist for the finishing his study was working there for 1 or 2 months, and he discovered that what was rejected in the dumps, the quartz, was not quartz, it was fine-grained white, ugly fluorite. And they found a few 100,000 tons at the beginning, only in the dumps. And on the right, this is a very sad day for the history of mines in France, because it was in 2007 when they destroyed the head frame of Le Burg mine, because this is certainly an end of an era. A few words about the fluorite district. Most of the main deposits are in the Massif Central, with the Puy-de-Dôme and Haute-Loire, in the area of Auvergne, and also the Albigeois, that means the Tarn department, with Le Burg and other, Montroc and other locality. Escarot is there, the big mine with no crystals. Some of you know Chaillac in Limousin, known more for goethite crystals and pyromorphite. Mont-Blanc area with the red crystals are there. The district of Provence is here. And there's a few deposits and veins near Sainte-Marie-aux-Mines area in the Vosges, and a very few in the Ardennes, but most of the Belgium in the Belgian part. So let's see now the Auvergne. A specimen from Langeac on the left, it's about 20 centimeters, and you can see that this is a back. The cubes, the stairs of clear cubes are the back of a first stage green octahedron covered by quartz. And that one very classic from Le Beix, a clear cube of 7 centimeters edge. Both of those specimens from the Gilles Emeringer collection are now in the MIM in Beirut. We will see some example of a recently acquired collection by Arkenstone, Paul Zerfas, a guy from Clermont-Ferrand, from the Massif Central, with the help of NIM in Milano and myself. And there is many specimens that is self-collected in Langeac, so one of the big locality for crystals and for ore in the Auvergne, that means the central region of France. And you can see from specimen from my collection the diversity of colors coming from Langeac. The yellow, the greenish blue with phantoms, the colorless cubes, and the deep blue, almost dark. There is always some coatings of quartz. This is the picture of the main entrance. And also something that was in the landscape, very classic, 80 meters depth, big hole, the Barre hole, now completely filled with a new ecologic regulation, unfortunately. And this is an example of a pocket of high grading by cavers. In spring 2013, I bought the entire pocket, and now everything is gone. I kept, I think, that one for my collection, that little one, very cute. Chavagnac-Lafayette, I think you know that guy, Lafayette. He was he born in Chavagnac, and there is a very nice castle. Chavagnac-Lafayette is maybe less known for you, but for us it's a very important locality, only dug during 10 years in the 70s, with great problems because of big spring mineral water in the main shaft. But those, that mine produced some big yellow specimen, like that one, with a strange and typical coating that many people of that time, of the 70s, believed to be quartz, so they put in the hydrofluoric acid, and finally with no result because it's a late stage granular fluorite growth. So there is some very nice yellow specimen. That one is 25 centimeters. and also some other pocket with some deep blue. This is a 6 centimeters crystal, and a very fine English green, let's say English green for fluorite pocket with some big specimen. That one is 20 centimeters. Lebex, maybe you have heard already Lebex. This is one of the famous mines in the world for blue fluorite. That specimen on the left is more or less 14 or 13 centimeters, and it was visible yesterday evening in the gallery of Arkenstone. It shows the deepness of the blue color of Lebex. Lebex is also well known for clear blue cubes, very, very clear. Not very perfect, because you have to know that that mine closed in 71, and at that time the miners, of course, were interested of high grading, but it was, they don't pay attention very much to the quality of the edges and the corners of the crystals. And maybe they have also to hide from the direction of the mine. So they did what they can at that time. Lebex is less known for green specimen, green cubes. In the Paul Zerfass collection, there was a great specimen, and this is Paul Zerfass. He collects already, he's back in collecting 6 months later, after selling his collection. And here, an happy picture with a new owner, one of my longtime friend and one of the best collector of fluorite in France, Jacques Desiol, and just when we delivered the specimen. So fortunately, that piece of French heritage belongs to France. There is also some good colorless and yellow cubes in Lebex. One less known locality is Puy Saint-Gulmier in the Puy-de-Dôme department, where there is Lebex. In Puy Saint-Gulmier, a very, very small village, there is 4 different mines on 4 different veins. The most interesting is Le Four vein. You can translate by oven vein. I don't know the etymology of that vein. That one is in the Zerfass collection. I think we have seen it yesterday in one of the vitrines of Rob Lavinsky. And there is also some interesting cubes with purple octahedron in the heart, in another little mine called Bizage. But these are extremely rare. You can see that the blue color of Le Four vein is absolutely astonishing, very, very deep blue, very bright. You have to see in real, because on the picture you can't have all the glowing of the blue of those fluorite. This is a big specimen. I think this is a 55 or 230 centimeter specimen. And something very funny on that single vein Le Four, it never has been a mine. It's only a research gallery from the 60s. And then digging from local collectors in the 70s with a bulldozer, one time only. Parallel to the main deep blue vein, there is a yellow vein, very, very deep yellow, very, very gemmy, and strongly etched. And there is a very big contrast between the center of the faces, which are extremely etched, and the corner of the cubes, which are completely flawless. You can make some good cutstone in those cubes. Unfortunately, the 2 veins are parallel, so don't dream never yellow on blue, like you had one time, I think, in Illinois in the good old time. Another blue of Puy Saint-Gulmier. Puy Saint-Gulmier is really something you need to discover. Unfortunately, there is very, very few on the market, and not many still belonging in the French collection. Another famous place for blue fluorite is Barre in Puy-de-Dôme. Paul Zerfas, that we use as an example, made some great discovery at his very beginning of his career in 74, and a second one in 79. This is very, very deep blue with internal yellow phantom. So if you don't backlight to show the phantoms, the blue is more intense. And they are nicely seated on quartz plates with yellow barytes. I think that specimen was also in a vitrine yesterday evening. Yeah, this is an example typical of the discovery of Paul Zerfas in 1978. Les Farges, you know certainly Les Farges as a pyromorphite, a great locality for the world, but there is also some very good fluorite, very rare, only a few specimens, but of a yellow intense color. That specimen on the right is about 20 centimeters. It was from the Zerfas collection. I think it's gone now. And that one was in my former collection. This is 6 centimeters only, but really something astonishing. And after being in the Gilles Emringer collection, it's now in the Me Museum in Beirut. And there is one specimen of yellow edge, the color of the one from the right, with some green Pyrrho, green emerald Pyrrho on it. So maybe one day we found a hidden specimen in one collection. Let's dream. Just examples of other little localities of the Central Massif. On the left, this is Piboul, a very, very small locality, not very far from the Stolzite of St. Lucie, the famous Stolzite deposit. Very, very deep yellow cubes around 3 centimeters, never more. And on the right, extremely small, only 30 meters long gallery that I discovered, let's say, 30 years ago. But at that time, I don't see the blue fluorite because I use a very old electric light. And this was the old time of the old bulbs, not the LED kind of light now. And those fluorites, the blue is only visible with daylight type of light, like LED. So at that time, I missed completely the story. Too bad for me. And there is only 2 pockets of deep, deep blue cubes on pyrite. Famous mine in south of the Massif Central, which is Valzergue in Aveyron. Valzergue was a very bad mine for ore. It was worked before Second World War, mostly. And there is a secondary vein called the yellow vein, because it's completely yellow everywhere. Very impressive at the beginning. And now this gallery has been dug at least 2/3 by amateurs only for crystals. During the time of the mine, it was only a 10 meters long gallery. These are examples of the Paul Zerfas collection because as he was very interested with fluorite after digging around his area in Auvergne, he went to the south of France. And at that time, with big works, it was still possible to find something. Now you have to dig during 2 months with mechanic tools, which is more and more difficult. And these are examples of some specimens of my own collection at home. Valzergue is well known for also blue stripes. Sometimes the stripes is at the outside and you have some blue cubes. Cubes could reach 40 centimeters edge, but never of good quality in that case. And this is the example of a showcase of a local collector. I hope to get one of these days that collection. I'm working on it. Let's see now Albigeois district, mostly in the Tarn department. So this is the southwest of the Massif Central. This specimen is about 30 centimeters. And the one on the right is in my collection, and the one on the left is about 22 centimeters long, so that means the cube is 6 by 7 centimeters. It's really something. You have seen often some Le Burg specimen for sale in the US market, mostly in Tucson, because some French dealer used to bring some, like myself. And these are examples of only 2 centimeters cubes, but to show you the internal zoning with some yellow stripes, blue stripes. And the one on the left, which was in my collection, then goes to Gilles et Maringer, and now it's maybe somewhere, one of you in the room have that specimen. It's about 20 centimeters. Please keep it, it's not that easy to find some. And the one on the right is about 5 to 6 centimeters edges with a classic chalcopyrite, because there's a lot of siderite and chalcopyrite crystals in Le Burg and all the Albigeois area. And this is still the same collection. The big specimens are 70 centimeters, 70, not 17. So you have an idea of what could be one day available if I work well. Montroc is an open pit nearby Le Burg. Work with a second twin open pit, which is a moulinal, but with no crystals in the moulinal. The specimen on the left is about 25 centimeters. It's now in the Liptro collection, so maybe you can ask them to show you that specimen. It's kind of blue-greenish, very, very typical of Montroc. And another typical pocket of Montroc is deep, I call it steel blue, if steel is blue, of course, but this is how we call it in France, and with a typical gray matrix with little quartz. Very, very, and this is how looks Montroc the year of the closing in 2004. You can see classic jumbo working. And the quarry stops 6 months before the previous date because all this part collapsed. Fortunately, there was no people injured. I'll show you a few examples of little localities from Albigeois. One of my favorite localities is Hambourg-Negade. This was the first work for fluorite just after Second World War. It's a single vein that we will see, and there is some very, very fine blue fluorite. As you can see, you have to do caving to go to see the old pillars, to inspect some pockets. And there is a great, great diversity of form of different kind of blue. Few years back, I brought in Tucson exhibition that box here that I used to call my magic box. I have it in my storage, and at the end of afternoon sometimes, before leaving for home, I open for 5 minutes just to remember the third of the crystals that I self-collected. And you can see some very, very complicated shape of cubes, like isohexahedron. And another mine, very little mine, Margou, which is now completely closed, where I found those crystals softly etched with a very soft blue. And that big crystal, completely embedded in a crust of iron goethite, I found it right here on the ceiling of the gallery. I had to build some little hill of rocks to go to have that specimen. And another famous place in Tarn is Peyrebrunn. Peyrebrunn was not a fluorite mine, it was a zinc mine from the Roman times to 1971. Fortunately, the upper part of the veins were cut by a big quarry like El Papiol in Barcelona or Hayes Quarry with Hayes Mine in Cumberland in England. And this locality produced some very, very fine deep yellow cubes on siderite, looking like old classic English. And sometimes some blue, more rare. Provence fluorite district with Fonsand vein field, because in fact it's 11 vein working by the same mine, which is the most prolific locality for the number of specimens and for the different forms and colors. You have here some stalactites. This is 10 centimeter stalactite. These are perimorphosed after anhydrite crystals. And some deep green fluorite like English style. And Lavlan is another famous locality. The specimen on the left is 20 centimeters with some barytes, nice green, and complex color zoning. This is a 5 centimeters cube. Just one jump in the Vosges, in Sainte-Marie-aux-Mines area, there is some small mines, sometimes Middle-Age times, for silver and lead. And some produce some very deep blue cubes. That specimen is 25 centimeters. It's still in the Gilles-Emeringer collection. There's a nice contrast with the hematoid quartz. Let's go to the Alps. This is a Sapé vein in Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, the one still in reserve, 1 million tons. You can see here the vein at the level of 1,400 meters, making like a wall in the forest, and the landscape from the place. We collected many times. I almost lose my left thumb there. A bad hammer, and there is some very clear cubes, softly etched, which is very typical of most of the fluorites from the Alps. And of course, Mont-Blanc. This is a landscape that you can see from the restaurant in downtown in Chamonix. And Chamonix is 1,000 meters level, and those peaks reach 3,500 meters. This is a 20 centimeters red octahedron in the Crystal Museum of Chamonix. The Crystal Museum opened 5 years ago in Chamonix, and you have to see that one day. It's really better and better every year. And it's softly edged, but completely gemmy. It's really fantastic. Example of Strahler. Strahler, this is a Swiss name, Cristallier in French. That means mountain crystal hunters. Guys who went to the non-classic place to climb to find some specimen. And you can see some discovery. Michael Bibolet from the Green Peak discovery. And here, Jacques Grandjean, a Swiss guy, very, very fine, at home preparing the exhibition of Munich 10 years ago now. This is Laurent, a very big specimen, almost 30 centimeters, classified as a national treasure from the National Museum in Paris. And still example of Les Droites, found at more than 4,000 meters high. This is Kurt's Peak, very, very famous discovery of 1997. Little octahedron deep red, which not appear on that picture because of the lighting of the showcase, but it's more red, on smoky quartz, almost Morion quartz. And they come from here. So if you want to go another time, especially with the heat, right now it's very, very difficult to go in the Mont-Blanc area. And another great, great discovery is the Green Peak. The Green Peak is a very, very big mountain, one of the main in the Chamonix area. And there is some discovery here around, but fortunately you can see the refugee for climbers, and the big, big discovery of 2010 took place not very far from the house, which helps. But now it's no more possible to go there because because of the heat. There is many rocks falling down, and there is maybe 10 meters above the end of the pocket. So they never reach again. After 4 years of digging, they never reach again the pocket. Too much rock collapse in front. This is an example of the Green Peak discovery from the Barre collection. I think this is 16 centimeters wide, and really superb color and superb quality. You can read a few more information about French fluorite, some in English, in Rocks and Mineral issue, I think it was June 2016. I wrote about blue fluorite, only blue fluorite, and also in Lorraine Mineral, some special issue about Auvergne fluorspar district, Albigeois, Provence crystalline, and also Paul Zerfa's collection. So now the question is, are the French fluomaniacs? So this is my blue team at home. A few examples, because I have personally more than 2,000 French fluorite in my collection. So you see, we are fluomaniacs, I think. And our team, world champions this year. Thank you very much.